On this episode of Delivering Marketing Joy, I talk with Michelle Turner Ganz about an epic trip that she took to become a certified yoga instructor and why it's important to get outside your comfort zone. Hey there, and welcome to a brand new episode of Delivering Marketing Joy. I am your host, Kirby Hasseman, and joining me today is a good friend of mine. We've known each other for a long time. She's from right here in Coshocton, Ohio, but she's also the co-owner of Dean's Jewelry, multiple locations, an entrepreneur, city council member here in Coshocton, Ohio, and much, much more, as you're about to find out. Michelle Turner Ganz, thank you so much for joining me. I appreciate it.
Oh, yeah. Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. So I want to dig in because I'm so intrigued by this sort of adventure you recently did. You recently took a 3-week yoga retreat to become a certified instructor. I believe you went with your daughter as well. So tell us how that event came to be and how it went. I cannot wait to hear about this.
Okay. So it's, kind of crazy. But my daughter it's my youngest daughter, and she was a senior in high school last year, and we were going to yoga classes and talking about things that she might do once she moves to college. And she really loved yoga, and I always have. And so we talked about maybe her going to yoga teacher training and then being able to teach while she's in school. Cool. So it was because of Lyric that I actually ended up going. Mm-hmm. And a lot of the yoga teacher training classes that we looked up and that were available were a 9-month program. So it's like every weekend for 9 months. So we talked to Cindy, who is our local, she has a studio here in town, and she recommended Kula Collective, which is who we ended up taking the class from. And she's like, well, if you can do this and you can make it happen, you should go out of the country and do it. And Lyric looked at me and we laughed about what a crazy idea this was. And then the more we talked about it, the more excited we got. And I thought, you know what, why not? It's an opportunity to hang out with her for a little while, and what an experience if we can make this happen. And and so we did. And so originally we were going to go to Guatemala, and we had everything all set to take the training there. And then with COVID, plans changed, and right. We found out then at the last minute that the same Kula Collective, they were offering the yoga teacher training class in Maryville, Tennessee. So that's how we landed in Tennessee and how I ended up being there. So, yeah.
So tell me about while you're there. What? Paint a picture. What was that like?
Right. So we were there for 26 days. Wow. And it was on Seven Springs Resort. So this resort, retreats, not a resort at all. Actually, we were outside for 26 days.
Okay. That's different.
My friends. Yeah, we were outside. We stayed in a yurt. There were several yurts on the property. It's named Seven Springs because there's 7 natural springs underground. And so there were, a couple showers outside in this beautiful kitchen that was outside. It was all inclusive to a degree. So, if you can say that, so there was a chef there, and he was an Ayurvedic chef, vegetarian, chef. And that was really cool too, because Lyric really loves cooking. And so the times that we weren't learning yoga, she was kind of shadowing Diedrich, who was cooking all of these really cool, interesting meals for us. So yeah, outside, everything. And there were 10 other people there. So it was a limited class. So we practiced social distancing for the first 2 weeks. So a lot of the adjustments and things that we might learn, we didn't learn until the end of class. So we really it was a family by the end. You spend that much time with everybody. Everyone had their own yurt. There was a labyrinth on the property. There, lots of nature and things like that. But as far as like our days, we began class started at 6:30 a.m. and we did a yoga class that was in the Shala. So I called it a mountain. Lyric laughed at me, but I climbed a mountain every day, multiple times.
That's right.
It was
Yes,
very
you
high.
did.
Yeah, it was in the Smoky Mountains, absolutely beautiful. And so we did yoga outside on the shala at 6:30 and meditation for half an hour. So from 6:30 to 8:15 every day was yoga and meditation, and then breakfast. And there's a lot about yoga that's more than just the practice or the physical activity of it. It really encompasses the whole lifestyle. And
Mm,
so we learned a lot about all the different pieces and parts of that lifestyle. And it's a lot about getting to know you and self-reflection,
right.
and really understanding who you are and what your dreams are and where you come from, your place. And so I found out that while being there, lyric was, I'm kind of segueing,
That's
but
good.
lyric was my reason to go.
Mm.
And I must have needed that, but I fell in love with everything about it, everything I was learning. It was really amazing. So anyway, so noble silence, that's what I was getting to. We did noble silence every morning, and it was the hardest thing for me. Surprise, surprise, as I'm rambling now. I was so hard to keep quiet in the morning. But we would be quiet so we could reflect until after breakfast. And then we spent from 9:30, 9:45 to 12:30 learning a lot of different things, whether, maybe it's the chakras, maybe it's anatomy, bone structure, muscles, joints, movement, how to be safe, and all different things. We had lunch, then we would have like an hour break, and then we spent every day from 2:30 to 6 or 6:30 learning the asana practice. And so that would be the actual poses and excuse me, how to break them down and then how to teach them.
Wow.
So that was our day for
Yeah.
26 days.
26 days. That's
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah.
So it actually leads nicely, because I mentioned at the beginning, I mean, you're an entrepreneur, you have a business. People have to be asking you how you're able to do an adventure like this and keep your business running. So how'd you make it work?
Well, I'm very fortunate. My brother is my partner, and we both work excellent together, and we do different parts of the business. So I focus on like the financials and the marketing, and those are, I guess, my two bigger picture of all the other little things that I do. And I've got a really strong team. So we knew 6 months in advance. I, of course, talked to my brother and said, hey, I think I might want to leave for a month. And he was cool, and that was great. And so I just made sure that I planned ahead and had everything done that needed to be done that I generally take care of in a day. And while we were there, we also did have every 8th day off and every 4th half day off. So we could, and we drove, so we could go into town and kind of hang out outside a place that had internet where I could check my emails and make phone calls and just confirm that everything was okay and going on. And that's kind of what
make you feel better.
Yeah, right. Because leaving, and it was a hard time too, because I left Noah alone during COVID, and just as I left, everything started spiking again, and masks were becoming more mandatory. And because it was in July, so it was right at that time where we were deciding what to do and what was next. And so I was able to reach out to him, and he and I could talk and communicate about bigger decisions. But the day-to-days, super proud. I have a strong team, and I was able to make it happen.
It's so impressive, and it speaks obviously to your leadership, but to your team as well. I mean, because I think many of us, me included, the idea of taking 26 days off is, God, I'd love it. I think, but it's hard to imagine. And so kudos. So I'm always intrigued about trips like this. So like, what did you learn? Did you have any like big picture takeaways that you took away?
Yeah, I did. I learned, so much. It's hard to even know where to begin when you're so submerged in just being outside and being able to pause long enough to really take in everything. That I learned that there are definite benefits in slowing down, and that even when you slow down, you can still get everything done. And it's often that we're in our head so much that we feel busier than we actually are. So just breathing and giving yourself permission to take a minute to just sit and decide what you need to do and then do it, instead of spending all of the time thinking about doing it all.
Yeah.
And I don't know if I'm really explaining that correctly or thoroughly, but the biggest thing I learned, was to take a pause. And Sunny, who was one of our teachers there, she's from Finland, and she taught us that her teacher taught her to just take small moments many times until it becomes your reality. And that message has really stuck with me, and I've used it over and over again coming home. Just when I start to feel overwhelmed or like my plate is too full, I can just pause for a minute and be like, okay, is it really, or is it just me thinking about things too much? And then, being able to take a step back and see it and then move forward. So,
yeah, one of the things I think it's where we mistake busy for productive.
Yeah.
Right. Like I talk to people all the time. It's like, it's not about how much you jam into a day. It's how much productivity. And I think that's where meditation and taking time to, it's about how well your brain is functioning. And I think some of the things that you've just done speak directly into improving your brain function. Does that make sense?
Yes, exactly. That's exactly one of the biggest differences I've seen in myself.
That's so cool.
Since coming home. And and the other part of it is the days happen anyway. And so, because I'm leaving 26 days. Oh my gosh, how can I be here for that long? And then I'm home 26 days, and I think about everything that I did in that exact same period of time. And when you realize that the time is going to pass anyway, you might as well do it. Go do something exciting or something fun, or figure out a way to blend your work and your passions. And because it can be done, we just have to decide to do it. And it's really a beautiful thing when it can happen.
Dude, I love that. The time is going to pass anyway. That's a good one to end on. You have answered my 3 questions. I'm so fascinated. So I admire that you've done this. It's so cool. But I give everybody a chance to ask me one question. Do you have a question for me?
Yes, I do. So I've been, after coming home from my trip and even just thinking about everything, I've been trying to write it all down, because so much happened in that period of time. I don't want to forget anything or miss anything, and which has led me to be more interested in writing. And I've always been an advocate for empowerment, and so as I segue into trying to write more, I know that you're a writer and a good friend of mine. And how did you decide to begin writing books, or what was the idea? Or did you wait for an idea, or did it just come up? Or tell me about writing, Kirby.
Yeah. So I think, in the interest of transparency, the first time I wrote a book, it was a fairly selfish act.
Okay.
I wanted to say that I had written a book. And so you just go, okay, what am I qualified to write about? I think since then I have written with the idea that I want to serve others. And I think that A, it makes it easier to write, and B, hopefully the books are better. It is, I think that it is a really long and challenging process. And I think once you get out of your own head about it being a bestseller or about it making you famous or whatever, and you just do it in the service of others, then you stop worrying about selling the books, and you say, okay, if somebody can just take the book and they get the idea is to spread the idea. Right. And so that's the one thing, is just to do it in the service of others. And then the other thing is just to write consistently. I've read your blogs, this, and you are a good writer. For me, once I decided to write something, it was like, I am scheduling this amount of time every single day, and I'm going to put the hammer down and try and do it. For me, writing is just like fitness or just like anything else. It's like training a muscle. I think people think you're going to run out of ideas to write with. I think that the opposite is true, because as you train that muscle, your brain starts to look for other things. And so you start to see ideas everywhere. And so, I write in the service of others and write every day. And if you do that, you'll get better at it, just like anything else.
Okay.
Cool.
Yeah.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, thank you, Michelle. I appreciate you taking the time and kind of telling this story. Really interested to to dig in even more at a later time. So thank you for doing it. Okay.
Yes, thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. Okay. That's going to wrap up this edition of Delivering Marketing Joy. We'll see you next time.